Chairman, Co-Chairman, Convener of the session, distinguished delegates, senior scientists and members of Noni family. As suggested by the Chairman of the session, I will straight away go into the topic. Now this work was done by me as a part of the research project funded by WNRF in connection with the refinement of vegetative propagation techniques. And the title of the paper is the influence of organic growth promoters and growing media on vegetative propagation of Noni. Now I'm not elaborating on the background of the study. It's just that Morinda citrifolia, which is one of the most therapeutically effective medicinal species, can be propagated, as Dr. Rathinam has already explained in detail. It can be propagated by seeds and vegetative methods. But the seed propagation is beset with certain problems like dormancy. So vegetative propagation has much significance in the crop for generation of true to type propagules from allied plants. But the available reports about the vegetative propagation in the crop suggest the use of synthetic growth regulators like NA and IA. Now, we all know that agricultural practices are moving towards a sustainable approach, and so it is necessary that we re-examine some of the existing practices like use of synthetic growth hormones. So in the study, I have, keeping in tune with the global shift towards organic agriculture and good agricultural practices, I have taken up the study to assess the influence of organic growth promoters and growing media on vegetative propagation of this versatile medicinal species. This is the objective, to assess the influence of organic growth promoters and potting media on performance of vegetative propagules of Noni, leading to the production of quality planting materials. The experiment was conducted at the Noni farm of WNRF at Parlikad. It's a place near Thrissur, as well as the Department of Plantation, Crops and Spices at College of Horticulture, Vellanikara during June 2013. The experiment was done in 3 sub-experiments. Number 1, to standardize the type of cuttings to be used as vegetative propagating materials, wherein softwood, semi-hardwood and hardwood shoots of 8-year-old Morinda citrifolia trees were used to raise the cuttings. And the experiment was done in a CRD with 9 treatments and 10 plants per replication. Now these were the treatments, that is 2 and 3 noded softwood cuttings, 3, 4 and 5 noded semi-hardwood and hardwood cuttings, and 2 to 3 noded hollow stem cuttings. Hollow stem cuttings are nothing but, as Dr. Rathinam explained, they are nothing but the verticals or the orthotropic shoots that you see in Noni plants, which are just like you see in coffee. It's a rubiaceae plant, so just like in coffee you see this orthotropic shoots. They are designated as hollow stem cuttings. Now the cuttings were, as for any other crop, they were planted in polythene bags of 8 inches into 7 inches, filled with standard potting mixture, kept under 50% shade in a shade net house with daily waterings being carried out and weeding also. And 5 plants under each treatment in each replication were selected as observational plants. Now coming to the second sub-experiment, now after having selected the best propagating material, the type of cuttings which were identified as best in the sub-experiment 1, they were carried forward to standardize the basal dip treatments of those cuttings using organic growth promoters. What was done was the basal 2 centimeter of the cuttings was dipped in various organic growth promoters, which I'll be projecting subsequently in a completely randomized design with 8 treatments and 10 plants per replication. Now these were the treatments I applied: dipping in cow dung slurry 75% for 10 minutes, then dipping in tender coconut water both 50 and 100% for 30 minutes, dipping in the organic growth promoter Panchagavya as well as in Noni fruit juice for 10 minutes each, then pulse dipping in charcoal slurry and dipping in sugar solution 2% for 10 minutes, along with an untreated control. And here also the number of observational plants per treatment was 5. Now coming to this methodology for the third sub-experiment, wherein I attempted standardization of organic growing media for raising vegetative propagating materials in Noni. Here also a CRD design was followed, and the type of cuttings identified as best in sub-experiment 1, they were planted without any basal dip in polythene bags, and the cuttings were raised as detailed in sub-experiment 1. Now these were the treatments. There were 11 treatments wherein it was a standard potting mixture Then the standard potting mixture fortified with azospirillum, the biofertilizer. Then neem cake was added to standard potting mixture, and to that medium azospirillum was added in the next treatment. Then vermicompost based potting mixture in two proportions. Then vermicompost based potting mixture fortified with azospirillum. Then standard potting mixture fortified with PGPR, which is the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, as well as AMF, singly as well as in combination. Then there was another treatment with coir pith compost being one of the components of the potting mixture. And in this sub-experiment, commercial formulations of the microbial inoculants were used, and they were applied at the center of the polybag at 5 centimeter depth in the respective treatments, and 5 plants were taken per treatment as observational plants. Now, statistical analysis was done employing the technique of analysis of variance, and the significance was tested by DMRT, or Duncan's multiple range test, wherein values with similar superscripts, they are supposed to be on par with one another with respect to their performance. Now, these were the observations taken: earliness in sprouting, percentage of sprouting, length of sprout, number of leaves 14 days after sprouting, percentage of establishment, number of leaves after establishment, and the root characters like length of roots and number of roots. Now, I'll briefly present the salient results and discuss the pertinent results with the support of the literature available. Now, coming to the first sub-experiment on standardization of type of cuttings to be used as vegetative propagules. This is the data which I want to project, wherein it is seen that the two-noded softwood cuttings as well as 3-noded softwood cuttings were better with respect to percentage of sprouting and earliness in sprouting. So there was significant variation noted among the type of cuttings with respect to sprouting, and as I said, 2-noded softwood cuttings as well as 3-noded softwood cuttings, followed by the hollow stem cuttings were superior with respect to percentage of sprouting. That was closely followed by 5-noded semi-hardwood cuttings, and the softwood cuttings were earlier to sprout as well. But this superiority of the softwood cuttings could not be utilized, because the softwood cuttings, in spite of sprouting earlier and in spite of registering a higher sprouting percentage, they failed to sustain the sprout and rotting commenced. And hardwood cuttings were rather late, taking about 14 days for 4-noded cuttings and 13.33 days for 5-noded cuttings. Now, the other propagating material, 5-noded semi-hardwood cuttings, recorded a higher sprout length 14 days after sprouting, followed by the hollow stem cuttings. And hardwood cuttings were found to be inferior with respect to sprout length. With respect to the number of leaves also, the hollow stem cuttings were better, while none of the softwood cuttings sustained to produce the leaves. Also, with regard to the other parameters studied, like percentage of establishment, number of leaves after establishment, mean length of roots and number of roots, and in all these characters, the 5-noded semi-hardwood cuttings and 2 to 3-noded hollow stem cuttings proved to be superior. Now, to discuss this result, now in some of the earlier reports, it was suggested that hardwood cuttings with 4 nodes recorded higher percentage of success, but in the present study, the 2 to 3-noded orthotrophs, that is the hollow stem cuttings, as well as 5-noded semi-hardwood cuttings, they surpassed the hardwood cuttings with respect to the parameters studied. So that's about the sub-experiment number 1. Now this is a photograph showing the rotting of the softwood cutting in spite of them registering the highest sprouting percentage. And this is a photograph of rooted semi-hardwood cuttings of Noni, which sprouted well and produced a good number of roots. Coming to the second experiment regarding the standardization of basal dip treatments, now it can be seen that the data shows that basal dip in cow dung slurry, 75% cow dung slurry for 10 minutes was proved to be superior with respect to most of the parameters studied. And this is also a graph showing the relative performance of the basal dip treatments, wherein the tallest bars are obtained by cow dung slurry dip for 10%, as well as charcoal slurry dip for 75%. Now, the same trend was followed in hollow stem cuttings as well. The earlier tables were for semi-hardwood cuttings, which were one of the best propagating materials selected. Now the same trend was followed for hollow stem cuttings as well. To detail the results, dipping in cow dung slurry recorded significantly superior performance with respect to sprouting percent in both semi-hardwood as well as hollow stem cuttings. There was about 93.33 and 96.67% sprouting respectively. The same treatment registered earlier sprouting and produced a significantly higher number of leaves 14 days after sprouting, as well as greater sprout length in both semi-hardwood and hollow stem cutting. So also, the cow dung slurry dip produced a significantly higher percentage of establishment in both type of cuttings selected. Now, with respect to the root characters also, the same treatment proved to be superior. Now, if I attempt to discuss the result, there is firm evidence in the literature that indole acetic acid is produced by cow dung microflora, especially Bacillus species, which contributes to the growth promoting activities of cow dung slurry. Now, in many other vegetatively propagated crops like sugarcane, also the beneficial effect of cow dung slurry has been reported. Now, another superior organic promoter was charcoal slurry, wherein pulse dip in charcoal slurry proved to be a promising treatment with significant superior performance with respect to the parameters studied and registering values on par with that obtained by cow dung slurry drip. Now, in certain characters, it was the second best treatment, that is with respect to earliness in sprouting and percentage of establishment. And for root characters, it was significantly superior, producing higher number of roots in both semi-hardwood cuttings as well as hollow stem cuttings. Now, the stimulatory effect of activated charcoal on root multiplication and elongation of crop plants has been reported, wherein the compound is observed to stimulate wound tissue growth, producing short tracheids with many pores from which roots develop. That probably explains the positive effect of charcoal dip on root characters of vegetatively propagated plants. Now, the other organic promoter, tender coconut water, 50 and 100%, as well as noni fruit juice, 100%, they produced values significantly superior to that of untreated control with respect to many of the parameters studied. Now, use of coconut water as well as noni juice as a growth component or growth promoting component have been well established, which are reported to contain proteins, amino acids, sugars, vitamins, minerals, and even growth hormones, which contribute to their growth promoting activity. Now, an interesting observation of the study was the ineffectiveness of sugar solution as an organic growth promoter in this crop, wherein significantly lower values were registered for the parameters studied as compared to the rest of the treatments.
Madam, just a very brief, just the findings only you tell.
Okay.
Because so much of details, it takes a lot of time.
Okay. So I just want to say that the organic growth promoter sugar solution as well as Panchagavya did not prove to be promising in the present study. Now, this is a comparison of the various organic growth promoters, wherein the cuttings, the control, which is the last one, it is producing significantly lesser roots as well as lesser shoot growth as compared to the rest of the treatment. And this is a 4-month-old rooted cutting of noni with basal dip in cow dung slurry. Now, the third experiment, which aims at standardization of organic growth media, here the salient results is that supplementing azospirillum to standard potting mixture as well as vermicompost based potting mixture, it was recording significantly higher percentage of sprouting in both type of cuttings. So also, values on par with that were obtained by supplementing the plant growth promoting rhizobia, that is PGPR1, to standard potting mixture, as well as PGPR1 in combination with arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. That was with respect to the sprouting percentage. Now, early emergence of sprout was also reported by enriching the standard potting mixture with these microbial inoculants. This is the view of the sprouted cuttings of noni in azospirillum incorporated potting mixture. Now, regarding the other characters also, addition of number of leaves, then establishment percentage, number of leaves after establishment, as well as root characters, supplementing azospirillum and PGPR singly and PGPR along with EMF proved to be superior. Now, the positive response of azospirillum has been well documented in many perennial crops, which is due to its biological nitrogen fixing capacity and its efficiency in absorption of water and nutrients. Also, PGPR, it is credited with various beneficial mechanisms, which include facilitation of resource acquisition by nitrogen and phosphate utilization in a better way by mineralizing the organic phosphorus. Now, in the present study, however, incorporation of AMF singly into the standard potting mixture did not prove to be superior with respect to the parameter study, which is a contradictory result when you consider the results obtained in perennial crops like black pepper. However, in the study, positive effect of AMF was noted when applied along with PGPR1, indicating that there is synergism between microbial associations. Now, in the same study, addition of neem cake did not prove to be very promising, as well as replacing sand with coir pit compost also did not register any significant improvement. So most of these compounds, the positive effect of these compounds is mostly species related. Also, the effectiveness of coir pit compost, it is dependent on the microbial species which is used to degrade the coir pit. So that may be the reason why these compounds did not prove to be very promising in Noni. So this is the photograph of the rooted cuttings in standard pottery mixture enriched with the plant growth promoting rhizobia. To summarize the result, 5 noded semi-hardwood cuttings and 2 to 3 noded hollow stem cuttings registered superior performance as vegetative propagating materials. Then basal dip in cow dung slurry or charcoal slurry proved to be superior. Tender coconut water and noni fruit juice were also promising growth organic growth promoters, whereas sugar solution and panchagavya were ineffective. Also, supplementing azospirillum and PGPR to standard potting mixture was superior, and positive effect of AMF was evident only in combination with PGPR, confirming the beneficial effect of synergistic microbial association. Addition of neem cake and inclusion of coir pit compost in growing media did not prove to be promising. So to conclude, this study on refinement of vegetative propagation in Noni has come out with 3 pertinent recommendations. Number 1, 5 noded semi-hardwood and 2 to 3 noded hollow stem cuttings were good as vegetative propagating materials in Noni. Then a sustainable technology for generation of quality planting materials was standardized, wherein basal dip in organic growth promoters like cow dung slurry and charcoal slurry proved to be superior. Also, utilizing beneficial plant microbe interactions like incorporation of azospirillum and PGPR in potting media, they were also superior, wherein the use of synthetic growth hormones could be done away with. Thank you. I will also wish to acknowledge the financial assistance given by WNRF in conducting.
Thank you, madam. I think it is open for discussion. Any suggestions or questions from the house? All right. No, Dr. Sir, because there should be some coverage of plastic culture and all this, because either protected cultivation, if they do, that's a good. Because this is a beginning, because lot of work has been done since last 10 years on the propagation side, because first of all, they have tried on the seed, now they achieved. Now on the propagation, they have done on the cuttings. Now the cuttings becoming successful, and also tissue culture become very successful. But the thing is that that is a good, because that is a softwood grafting you have to make again. We have to try. I think my madam can speak.
Vegetative propagation by cuttings is definitely good, sir, because the plantation that we maintain there, the planting materials was cuttings only. Now it's more than 8 years, and the plants are doing well. But grafting may also prove to be promising, which I have not tried in my experiment.
And I think we are having next presentation, Dr. Sir, on softwood grafting. We will have some details information. We will be getting. Thank you, madam. Any other? All right. I think my thanks to the madam for a good presentation. I think this presentation is better than yesterday what you made in the. Thank you.